Stephen Fiddler from the Wall Street Journal. Three questions, if I may, but very quick. The statement mentions the 2% benchmark and that and the 20% of that 2% of GDP benchmark and 20% of that for major equipment. Now that 2% is not new. It's been around for more than a decade, and defense spending has continued to fall. I mean, what do you think needs to happen now, and what will happen to make sure that actually defense spending does turn around and doesn't continue to fall? What will be different now to what happened before? My second question relates to this so-called spearhead force, and whether you have had any pledges from nations already indicating that they would send forces into that force. David Cameron, I think, mentioned that this morning, that the UK would do that. And my third question is just a brief assessment, if possible, on the Ukraine peace plan, because I understand you may have been briefed about it.
First, on defense spending, what is new? Firstly, it is new that heads of state and government have committed to working towards the 2% guideline. Secondly, it's new that there is now introduced a timeline. We'll do it within a decade. Thirdly, and I think actually most importantly, this decision has been taken in a completely new security environment. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is a wake-up call, and I think this is exactly what has led capitals in NATO allied nations to reconsider defense investment, because it's now obvious that we cannot take our security for granted, and we will have to invest more in our defense and security. Over the last 5 years, Russia has increased its defense investment by 50%, while NATO allies in average have decreased their defense spending by 20%. And obviously, this is not sustainable. So I think this new security environment will be the driving force for now actually implementing this pledge. And actually, a number of allies have already declared, based on broad political agreements in their parliaments, that they will reverse the trend, stop the cuts, gradually increase in defense investment towards the 2% benchmark. So that's why I'm confident that this is really a change. We have turned a corner. On the spearhead force, yes, we have heard announcements of willingness to contribute to the spearhead force, so no doubt that it will be established. And in general, I can tell you that the implementation of the Readiness Action Plan will start immediately. Finally, on Ukraine, I warmly welcome if a real ceasefire could be established. But one thing, of course, is to declare a ceasefire. The next and crucial step, of course, is to implement it in good faith, and it remains to be seen. But so far, so good. I hope that this step could be the start of a constructive political process.
Financial Times.
Sam Jones, Financial Times. Just wanted to ask, are you disappointed at all with the agreement that's been reached on defence spending, given the long time frame? And do you feel that, or what's your message to allies that may use this as an excuse not to increase defence spending in the near term or for the next few years? And also, maybe I was wondering if you could respond to a statement from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs recently, just in the last hour or so, that the upshot of the summit is that it proves that NATO's long-standing idea has been to put troops on the ground in Eastern Europe, and the Ukrainian crisis has been a mere excuse to do so.
No, I'm not disappointed. On the contrary, I'm encouraged by the fact that all allies at the level of heads of state and government have committed to reverse the trend, stop the cuts, start gradually increasing defense investments. We have known right from the outset that this would be a challenging task and that it couldn't be done overnight. So I think to have a time horizon of a decade, of 10 years, that's reasonable. Also because defense investment is a long-term planning issue. From you make a decision to invest in certain capabilities till they can actually be developed and delivered, very often it takes quite some time. So it is a very important decision. You ask me if it could be used, this time horizon of 10 years could be used to postpone immediate steps. I don't think it will be used to postpone immediate steps. On the contrary, we have seen a number of allies already declare that from this year, from next year, they will start gradually to increase their defense spending, because they realize that this is also a short-term challenge. For instance, the reassurance measures we have adopted, they will require resources. It takes money to deploy troops to participate in exercises in the East. I can tell you that it will be quite costly to establish a spearhead force at very high alert, and that can't be postponed till the end of a decade. This will be costs, expenditure here and now, next year, this year, next year. So I'm confident that this will be a real step also in the near term. On Russia, well, I'm not surprised to see these comments. Let me remind you that all this has been provoked by Russia's illegal military actions in Ukraine, plus, and we should recall that, plus the Russian statements that they preserve the right to intervene in other countries to do what they call protect the interests of Russian-speaking communities. And for many understandable reasons, such statements have created a lot of concern in not least the Baltic states. So this is a reason why we have to take necessary steps to provide effective defense of our Eastern allies.
Georgia Media.
Natia Guksadze, Georgian TV company Rustavitul. Let me follow up these questions and remind you from the prospect that Russia has not fulfilled its obligations, ceasefire agreement in 2008 during the war with Georgia. And in this situation, how could be Russian and Putin's peace plan trusted?
Yeah, well, probably you will have noted that I have all the way through been a bit cautious in my statements on these peace plans and announcements of truces and ceasefires, because you're right, based on experience, based on history, we know that one thing is a declaration and quite another thing is implementation. Nevertheless, I would welcome, of course, if the new announcement of a ceasefire represents a sincere attempt to stop the violence and initiate a constructive political process. And that's why I stressed that what counts now is clear implementation in good faith.
James?
Yes, Brooke Stigner, Jane's Defense Weekly. Just two short questions, one on language. You said the Allies have agreed to a pledge on defense investment, but I think the original draft language was for commitment. I stress the word commitment. Is that word commitment still there, or is this a watering down of the obligation of member states to increase their spending? And second, perhaps more important, could an ally's contributions in kind to NATO, increased infrastructure, troops, capabilities, be taken into account as part of their spending commitment, or must they strictly raise their financial spending, their defense budgets? Thank you.
Now, the way you present it could leave the perception that this is a legal commitment, and as we all know, obviously it's not. It is a political commitment, and that's why we have also the concrete formulation, as you will see it in our summit declaration, is that we will aim to do this and that. But that's how politics work. But of course, there is quite some strength in a statement issued by 28 heads of state and government. While I know, as a politician myself, that very often people don't trust political pledges, it is still, from a summit, a clear statement from 28 leaders that they aim to move towards this 2% guideline. And as I said, it is the first time in the history of our alliance that heads of state and government issue such a statement. So it has not been watered down. It is as strong as it can be in a political world. Next, I would say that I was also encouraged by the discussion we had today, because the way leaders argued left me with the very clear impression that everybody realizes that we are now in a dramatically changed security environment. After 25 years of relatively nice weather, after the end of the Cold War, we are now faced with what I would call a profound climate change, politically and also as regards security. And that's what will be the driving force. So that's why I'm confident that we have really turned the corner, as I said.
France 24.
Thank you. Salwa Amin, Compact Magazine, Germany. Has there been any discussion regarding a possible reallocation of the missile defense system against Russia during the summit? Or have there been maybe talks regarding this issue scheduled in for the near future among the member states? Thank you.
No, the very brief answer is that we stick to our plans as they have been outlined since we took the decision in Lisbon in 2010.
Thank you very much. And with this, we conclude the last press conference of the Wales Summit. Thank you.